Eric Henderson is out on the recruiting trail already, and the Washington impact on USC football as the two join the Big Ten. Welcome to Trojan Conquest Live right here at the Voice of College Football. Appreciate you all stopping by, as always, on a Monday night, 11 Eastern Time, 8 Pacific. Two Trojans Wire guys here, flanked on either side. Matt Zemek and Tim Prangley. How you guys doing?
I'm doing well, and hey, I'm loving that Tim Prangley is getting into a groove at Trojans Wire. He's learning the ins and outs of the sports writing business and how the sausage is made. I mean, not all of it's a pretty picture, but like his education is moving along very nicely. I'm very happy with the work that he's done, and it's just great to have him aboard. Not just here at the Voice of College Football, but at Trojans Wire. And just as a side note, Tim's at Trojans Wire, one, because I wanted him, two, because he was hired. Like, those things had to happen, but also the slot came open for him because there's going to be, in the next month or so, UCLA Wire, Washington Huskies Wire, Kentucky Wildcats Wire, Florida State Wire, and Miami Hurricanes Wire. So a lot of new wire sites, and Mark, I mean, if you need media hits, you're going to have 5 additional wire sites to choose from, and I think that's going to bring our membership close to 30 different College Wire sites in our network. So it's all part of growth, and Tim Prangley's part of that story.
Sounded similar to my our channel rundown here at the Voice of College Football there for a second. Florida State, Miami, and otherwise. Very good, very good. And Trojans Wire and the folks there yet not regretting yet the addition of Tim.
Never, ever.
Okay. All right.
And people say never. I'm going to say never.
Yeah, it's been fun. I've got double digits in the books now, so stories wise. So yeah, I mean, I've been writing and talking about SC football forever. So now I'm actually getting paid for it, Mark, which is nice.
That is nice. Very good. Very good. Yes. We will try to supplement that here as well. All right. So here we go. So one of the things, I guess, as soon as I make this statement, there are going to be people in the chat say, duh, Mark. But it didn't necessarily, if somebody would have asked me this question, or it would have been part of a questionnaire, I would have gotten it correct. But it wasn't necessarily in the thought process for me that during these 2 pockets of transfer portal windows, that they could, of course, be extended by multiple coaching moves. Certainly by one coaching move does it for that particular team, and those players having the availability to move on for 30 days past that coaching departure. But with the domino effect of coaching departures being what they are, Alabama becomes Washington, becomes Arizona, becomes San Jose State. Suddenly we've got a mini transfer portal window that just continues on practically endlessly. By the time we get to the end of this one, we're going to be near the beginning of March and spring football. And of course, one of those primary components is Washington, which is moving to the Big Ten along with USC. And we are seeing where Washington is both losing quality talent that got attached to Kalen DeBoer, was recruited and signed by the DeBoer staff, moving to Alabama, but Jedd Fisch doing an exemplary job moving some of his key pieces from Arizona to Washington, although Brent Brennan has done a fine job and certainly has held on to a couple of key pieces there in Tucson. So, Matt, starting with you in regards to your overriding thoughts about the impact of Washington's transfer portal extension.
Yeah, I think USC fans have to be pretty happy with how things are going at Washington, which is to say, not great. I mean, Fisch is getting some players, but he's not getting all of his players, and he's not getting his star players. And he doesn't have Noah Fafita and Tetroy McMillan. I'm sure most Husky fans, when Kalen DeBoer left and it began to become clear that Jedd Fisch was the #1 target, you had to think Husky fans were thinking, all right, we get Fafita and McMillan throwing for us at Husky Stadium. Didn't happen, not gonna happen. And so Washington's scrambling for options at the most important position on the field. And so like that has to make USC feel really good. And so where's Washington going to go? Where's Jedd Fisch going to go for his top quarterback? And so right now, just, weighing all other factors, all other variables, right now, USC's in a better position than Washington. Now, of course, USC's not in a better position than Oregon, but we're not talking about Oregon. We are talking about Washington. USC's in a better position than the Huskies at this moment. Jedd Fisch has to come up with something special. He might need to land a quarterback in the spring transfer portal window. Right now, he doesn't have an elite answer heading into the Big Ten. So, it's not as though Washington's swinging and missing at every turn. They've gotten a running back. They've gotten several other pieces from the Arizona roster, but it's hit and miss. Like Washington's winning some, Arizona's winning some. I think Arizona fans have to be thrilled that they have retained as much as they have. It's probably going to still, some of the losses are probably going to put Arizona behind Utah, because we remember Cam Rising's coming back for Utah in 2024. But I think Arizona can still say, hey, we're in the hunt because we have our quarterback, because we have our star wide receiver coming back. So it's not like a wholesale exodus. And so seeing Washington and Arizona, for that matter, win some transfer battles, lose some, like neither one's going to be a giant next season. Like that is generally a good outcome for USC. And I know that USC is not going to play Arizona because they're going to be in different conferences, but just the fact that Arizona and Washington are splitting, that means neither of them is getting all the wealth, and that definitely is to USC's benefit.
Yeah, in regards to the Huskies, certainly the quarterback situation is going to be intriguing to see how that plays out. They lose Austin Mack. Of course, he was supposed to be their future. He goes to Tuscaloosa. Will Rogers, a very different skill set quarterback than Michael Penix, made the original move because of Kalen DeBoer and liking what he was seeing there with the Washington offense, then pulls back into the transfer portal again. But we're understanding, we had our guy Lars Hansen on a couple times here in the last week of the Voice of College Football from Huskies Lockdown podcast, and him making the comment that Will Rogers still very much, though, doing the right thing while he's still in Seattle and still weighing his options. So he's still attending team meetings, still meeting with Jedd Fisch, still has taken a part of what's going on there in Washington, still having not yet totally made his decision while still in the transfer portal. So the Washington football team, when you look at the names that are departing, and you see Jabbar Muhammad on the defensive side as their lockdown cornerback and some other pieces there, Jeremy Bernard, who was a playmaker on offense, it is going to be extremely difficult for them to maintain that level of play. And in a different conference that we could argue better or worse or the same, but more physical would not be too debatable.
They missed out big because, I think everyone did, like you said, thought that Fisch was going to get Tetsuya McMillan and Noah Fafita to come with him. But I wrote, as a matter of fact, speaking of Trojan, I wrote an article on the fact that it was actually his dad shared with 247 Sports the fact that it really wasn't a Fisch. He was thinking about going. Both of them were leaving, but there was actually to go to play with Kalen DeBoer in Alabama. And so they were really flirty with that. Imagine that little scenario. But in the end, he ended up staying. They decided that they want to stay and finish out what they started with all their guys, because the dad said that they knew they couldn't take their whole team with them to Alabama, and they just did not want to leave their guys behind. So again, this day and age of NIL and college football changing, these guys want to finish what they started. Without Fisch, they're probably not going to be. I know Brennan's a good coach, but without Fisch, they're probably not going to be a top 10 pick early in the season like they might have been, but they still be a top 25, maybe top 30, somewhere in there, and they should make some waves in the Big 12.
We do appreciate everyone here at the Voice of College Football checking us out on a Monday night. Bring your family and friends. Remember that just don't be selfish and take in the content yourself, but, bring along a friend or two or 50 with you, and there still is time. We just got revved up, just started the conversation. So Matt Zemek, Tim Prangley here as they are each and every Monday, and had another call-in show for all of you last Friday night as well. And we do a double header of sorts now, starting this past Friday night, the Big Ten live show with Tim and myself taking your calls over on the main channel. Then we come on over here. We got Matt and Tim making that instant changeover.
It was brutal.
Yes. Well, I'm a taskmaster. What can I say? And then Tim cuts it loose here with the call-in show on Friday nights.
No, I don't know how you do it because, again, I was okay for it. So I guess for hour one of the call-in show, hour three being on. But that fourth hour mark, I just started forgetting. I forgot Jordan Palmer's name. Just things started skipping out of my head, and it was again, I don't know how I've often called you the Iron Horse, right? The Iron Horse of calls, but I don't know how you do it day in and day out doing 4-hour shifts.
We just keep grinding. What can I say? I guess so. What the first thing that comes to mind before we'll kick back into USC is doing a swim meet when I was I was only about 6 months into the profession at the time. And I don't even want to call myself a professional at that standpoint, but fresh out of Kent State University, working for the fine WNCO radio TV station there in Ashland, Ohio. And they asked me to do a swim meet. So I'm there for like 12, 14 hours in the 90-degree heat, calling a swim meet, not knowing what I'm talking about. So that just comes to mind for whatever reason. All right, let's get back to the Trojans. And I don't know that there was anything else that we wanted to hit on regarding the periphery of the program, but certainly Eric Henderson, the only question mark there. And I don't think it was a major concern, but of course, making that transition from the NFL to college football, he now becomes D-line co-defensive coordinator and recruiter, and has to transition into that role. And he's getting after it immediately, Tim.
Yeah, he hit the boots on the ground in Florida, and he's going right after a Longhorn commit, Brandon Brown. That was his first start. I'm not sure. We started two guys. They're both in Twitter. If you're not on X or Twitter, you can go check it out. But he also made a stop later on, and he's really, what we were worried about is that we know that he can coach him up. We know that he's a developer of talent. We know he's going to come with some gravitas coming from the Rams. He's doing selfies or posting up things with professional guys he played with in the past. I'm just thinking, the Aaron Donald pictures are great and all this sort of stuff, but what's going to happen when he actually goes into these living rooms? Well, going into Brandon Brown, and guess what? Now Texas commit is coming out to visit USC on February 2nd. So it just took him one morning. He's there now. I mean, it's not like it's things set in stone. It is recruiting, but now all of a sudden he's in his ear, and now he's coming out to USC to visit. So, I mean, signs point towards the fact that he's doing a pretty good job recruiting. And so I think two that we know of, and also Myron Charles, another guy that everybody, you look at his offer list, it's just a who's who of everybody in the Big Ten, the SEC. So these are two heavy hitters, and he's not messing around. He's not wasting time, and I can't wait to see what he can do in the next couple of weeks. He's on the recruiting trail.
And real quick, before Matt cuts loose on this one thing that comes to mind that may play into his favor as well, and we certainly, folks, check out last week's episode, and I'm sure Matt and Tim touched upon it even more, Eric Henderson's resume and what he brings to the table. But there may actually be a component here where an Eric Henderson brings a fresh, not just perspective, but just a mental freshness to the recruiting trail. That is a grind. And if you do it year after year after year after year, this might be something that, and I'm just conjecturing here, might be something that, well, it's somewhat new to him. It might actually be something that, okay, this is something different. This is something unique. I'm kind of amped up to take my shot at this. And and work this system. You know, it's not like this is the 18th consecutive year I've been on the recruiting trail and I'm kind of worn down by all this. So that there could be a component there that works in a new coach's favor or a new to college football coach's favor.
I think that last point is exactly it. That when you go, when you're in college and you want to go to the NFL, one of the lures is you don't have to recruit. You can just be teaching players. And then in college, different deal. So the fact that Eric Henderson has just been an NFL coach, I say just only in terms of he's just had to focus on coaching. Like now he goes to the college game, and so that he certainly right now and in the next 2-3 years, if he's able to last that long, he should have a lot of energy. Like he's not a college football recruiting lifer, so this is new to him, or at least comparatively newer to him. So yes, that freshness that you talked about should give him ample energy. And what Tim said with the prospect scheduling a visit to USC. I mean, all you can ask of these recruiters is that they crack open the door. They get USC a foot in the door. They get to show, look at this all-star defensive staff we have. Look at all these guys that are going to get you to the NFL. I saw in the chat, Sean Nua, he helped Aiden Hutchinson finish second in the Heisman, get to the NFL. Detroit Lions are in the NFC Championship game. So what if the Lions get to the Super Bowl? I mean, then Sean Nua says, I coached and developed a Heisman runner-up and a Super Bowl pass rusher. So, and of course, with the Amon-Ra St. Brown as well, Tim wearing the Lions hat, so the fact that Eric Henderson's coming from the NFL to the college game, yes, it's new. So he's not going to get worn out by this sort of thing. There's a hunger, there's a fire that runs really deep, and that's certainly an advantage for USC. And I would just say that, and this is a theme that I've voiced before, it's worth repeating again, that Lincoln Riley was willing to take some time. Maybe you lose out on some prospects in December and early January as a result of being patient and deliberate in filling out your staff. But now that you have the right guys, well, there's a little bit of a window before signing day. And then there's a 2.5, almost 3-month window before the spring portal opens on April 16th. Circle that date, folks. April 16th is when the spring portal window opens. And so hopefully what Eric Henderson is doing now, came aboard late, but because of the NFL season running through mid-January. But what Eric Henderson is doing now, hopefully, is laying the groundwork for a big spring for USC. And that's been a constant theme of mine over the past month, is that, USC is not getting those splashes on the trail or in the portal, but, all chips on the middle of the table in the spring. That's when USC has to strike. And with what Eric Henderson is doing is trying to lay the groundwork for precisely that outcome at USC.
Here's really quickly. I'm sorry, Mark. Go ahead. Every damn show I forget people, especially the guy I'm about to mention in a second. Just wanted to recognize Danny Kennedy for Super Circuit. Thank you. That's our guy, Pete Arbogast. I'm gonna do it until he gets me copyrights and says you can't use my thing anymore. Thank you so much, Danny, again, for 1, being a member, but 2, being a contributor here on channel, and 3, now for the super chat. Thank you so much for that. Then we got a couple more guys here. We got Slap Happy hitting us not once, not twice, but 3 times. Again, thank you, Slap, for all that. And then our guy, Roy Banuelos, Micah Banuelos' dad, thank you so much for the $10 super chat. Again, we appreciate all of your guys' support. A lot of you, the 3 names I just named have been supporting the show pretty much since I've come over here to Trojan Conquest Live. So really appreciate all you guys being here. We appreciate everyone being here, but especially the people that go out of their way to contribute to us in all special ways, either in the chat, you guys are lighting it up, but also through financially, through super chats, super stickers. You guys, we really, really appreciate all of your help.
Thank you.
As Matt was running down that last topic.
Sorry. I'm sorry. I see I do it every time. And then also Jeff Rodriguez, another super supporter of the show. Thank you so much, Jeff, for being here. You've been here since the very beginning. I can remember on all the USC channels. So thank you, Jeff, for being here as well. Sorry, Mark.
No problem. I will certainly get out of the way for Jeff and for a super chat or super sticker. Thank you so much, everyone. Slap happy
again with Slap Happy, bringing them, making you guys are making us very, very happy young men. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Slap Happy. All right, so I may make some folks in the chat happy as well, because I think I've come across something that maybe I'm doing this for selfish motives, because I love to tap these two on this particular show and other shows where we've got the experts here on a particular team, where I'm a personnel nerd. I want to know everyone and how good they are and who could be who. And this is not for tonight's consumption, but at some point, whether that's pre-spring or possibly post-spring practice to get us into the season, would love to hear from both of you on a series of guys on this team that are not the givens, not the superstars, and not certainly the guys that are going to play special teams. You know, whether it's 10 guys, 12 guys that are in that range of, wow, it's time for them to break through. They were a big recruit, but they've just been filling a role here and there. It's time to break through. Those wild card X factor possible breakthrough guys for 2024. And while I'm offering my request of these two at some point in the next couple months, folks, we always are open to field your requests, not just in the moment questions, but if you have a topic that you would like us to maybe spin forward for future weeks and months in terms of a series or a rundown you would like for us to do, we will certainly tackle those requests as well.
Well, so you're not going to be able to replace Taj Washington. People don't realize that he slowly worked his way up to career receptions leaders at USC and finished in the top 15. And very illustrious. Being a top 15 receivers at USC is a pretty illustrious group to be with. Obviously, everyone knows about Juice Robinson. So that he was a big name coming in, and more people saw Zach Branch special teams. He's going to get his route running better, etc. And last on the Holiday Bowl, I was talking going into the game. We watched him do it in the game. You got a guy named Jacoby Lane. This guy is long, lanky, tall, could jump out of the building, going to cause problems in the red zone and on third down. I guarantee you all season long. But even he's kind of known now, Mark. So I'm going to flip it to Mekhi Lemon, who also splashed a couple of times. This is going to be your speedster. So if you're talking about somebody that might fill in that Taj Washington role, that third down, maybe third and medium, third and long kind of guy where you just need that catch. We saw Amon-Ra St. Brown doing a lot in the playoffs. He might be that guy on third down because it just looked like whenever we needed a play to happen, it was Taj Washington. And even his young career, you saw Mekhi Lemon get out there and make a couple plays to get the offense moving. Offensive line, we saw Elijah Page. He plays left tackle. He's the guy to look out for. He was, he's the highest recruited of those linemen that came in that class I've been raving about for an entire year now. He definitely is going to be getting some early playing time. Watch for him. And then running back, I'd probably say look for Quentin Joyner. I mean, we were hoping to see some running in that game in the Holiday Bowl. They didn't run because Miller Moss's hand was so damn hot. So they rode that hot hand with him, and why not? But I think that we are going to be excited to watch him develop. Let's see. So then on the line, look for a guy named Braylon Shelby. He got in a little bit late in the season. He's a pass rush. He's going to be a big young guy. You see him. It's amazing. He looks like he's bigger every time I see this guy. And he's quick off the ball, looking really sharp for SC. He should have a big name for himself next year as well. Matt, I'll save some guys in the secondary for you, or if you want to hit someone.
Well, yeah, I mean, isn't that the point? That the linebackers in the secondary were so underwhelming last season, you could pretty much take anyone in those two position groups. And, so you have Matt Entz coaching up the linebackers, and you have Doug Belk, and hopefully, this isn't official, but Taylor Mays, he hasn't gone anywhere else. So at least, certainly for now, he's still within the fold at USC. Doug Belk and Taylor Mays coaching up the secondary. So Like there's there's an endless list. Like I'm not going to limit it to one name. I think you get all of those position groups as collectives playing much better than in 2023. That's just exponential improvement. So I don't feel the need to pick an individual name. And I will also say, Tim is better at zeroing in on this specific guy than I am. I'm more inclined to the 40,000 foot view, but really you can pick a name out of the hopper at linebacker or secondary.
I master folks at the satellite view. Matt's at 40,000 when it comes to USC football. I'm taking the satellite view. And again, Tim, I appreciate the personnel breakdown. I was certainly not expecting it in the here and now. I was thinking, down the road, I'd give you guys some time to prep and to be ready for that question. The other thing, and you guys tell me if this is a worthwhile rundown at some point. And the only reason I hesitate on this one, because I usually love this topic, is because this is just Lincoln Riley's basically second full recruiting cycle. Of course, he had to pick up the pieces from Clay Helton and finish off the 22 class. Yes, 22 class. But it would be intriguing because I've done this with others in the past to run through recruiting classes and just kind of pick them apart as to, did this really work out? Who were the busts? Who jumped off the page? Who were the under the radar guys that broke through? And just kind of look at these recruiting classes. Again, this is possibly an April or May or June project, but just some things that I would love to hear out of you guys.
I'm right now on super chats.
Yeah,
guys,
where are we headed next?
You guys are out of control again. Listen, we really appreciate you. I don't want to lose track of where I'm at. It was last one I did, a $5 slap happy. So then also Jeff, J Rod again coming in with the $5. Thank you so much, super sticker. And then Slap Happy coming in again with another donation. Slap. Again, you guys too kind. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you so much for your time and your money. Appreciate you being here.
Very nice. Thank you so much, all of you. We appreciate it. We do offer extra content, exclusive content. That's been Matt and myself. We've got 13 segments posted for the top 2 tiers of the YouTube channel members here at the Voice of College Football. So I got to tell you, Matt delivers a great topic every time when we get together. We did so about 2 weeks ago. We cut 3 more segments, and it was just after the Pete Carroll retirement announcement. Obviously, there's a USC theme there that we can take to a broader perspective to the NFL and to Nick Saban and so forth. And the conversations are great. I just love it. I learn from Matt. We go back and forth. We often agree. Sometimes we disagree. We bring different takes and different perspectives, and we don't have any time, any issue filling, 25, 30 minutes talking college football. So there's 13 of those segments. We will be doing some more here in the near future at some point. So please, and especially for you folks that are contributing financially anyway, just for a small portion of that, you could have a YouTube channel membership here at the Voice of College Football USC.
I learn a lot from Mark. I want to get that in. You might learn from me. I definitely learn a lot from you as well. And those conversations are great fun. And I would just say, we keep advertising them. I would just say very simply, they're not conventional conversations. I think that's the best advertisement I can give for them. Like, they're not ordinary conversations. They're not run-of-the-mill conversations. They go in all sorts of different directions. They really try to look at things from a perspective that you might not have considered before. So original content. It's definitely not in the first take mold. It's definitely not in the just a cookie cutter mold. It's really a different perspective. It's like comparing Fenway Park to Veterans Stadium or Riverfront or those 1970s soulless concrete edifices. Yeah. No, we have style, we have charm, we have personality, character, nuances. Those are bonus cuts. for our USC members at the Voice of College Football.
And I am sorry, I did not. I thought I had updated them. There's 3 new members. I promise I'll get your names on here soon enough. I'm very, very sorry that they're not up there yet.
Tim takes away my graphic and chat monitoring responsibilities during this show. I love it. I just sit here and I toss a sentence or two out there, set up these 2 and let them roll. And Tim's also taken on all the graphics responsibilities. So this is the one show that I like, just to have a good time listening to these 2. So we do appreciate it.
Well, go ahead, Mark. You were going to thank some people. We definitely want you to thank some people.
Well, certainly. I just was going to highlight this from Jackson Johnson. He's encouraging everyone that, and this is something that Tim is beating the drum on. Jackson, thank you so much for being here. Jackson's phenomenal on Twitter and all over social media, doing a great job promoting our shows and promoting what we do here at the USC channel. And Jackson's always on it, and he sees that subtotal. We are ever so close to 5,000.
Hey, hit that button, guys. Appreciate it if you could. If you're not already subscribed, you're missing out. Join the group. We go live at minimum twice a week. And you never know when we're going to sneak one in there or put a video out for one of a cut up. So make sure you got subscribed.
And as a favor, or an appreciation for Jackson's support of us, watch and listen to the Jacksonian. Jackson's show. He's a tireless worker, and you want to reward the effort that Jackson and others put out. Listen to the Jacksonian whenever you get a chance. Now, one thing we're doing a little bit new this week, just to kind of clue you into the nuances of our show and how it evolves. In the first 15 minutes, everyone's kind of joining in. We're waiting for the crowd to come in, so we're going to start doing our feature presentation, our main topic, after 20, 25, 30 minutes, so that we have more of our Trojan family, we have more of our Voice of College Football family. Now that you've all gathered around the virtual campfire, as it were, we go with our main topic. And so, if you've been wondering, wait, weren't we supposed to be talking about a certain topic at the beginning of the show? Well, we're saving the main topic for a half hour, 20 minutes in, when you're all here. So the main topic, Julian Sayin, not going to USC, going to Ohio State, and that, of course, is the bridge to the larger topic of USC NIL being AWOL, and it just keeps on happening. The hits just keep on coming. And the point I have to make at the start of this conversation, and of course, Tim and Mark are going to weigh in with their thoughts, but look, Ryan Day just had a failed season at Ohio State. I mean, it wasn't a terrible season, and I know Mark's deal about, we can't
the Tiger.
We can't view 11-1 as a disgrace, and I get it, and it's fundamentally true, all right. But he did fall short of the mark. He did fall short of what was expected. He lost a 3rd straight game to Harbaugh. And of course, there's also this talking point that Ryan Day went 0-2 against Harbaugh with CJ Stroud, who lit up the NFL this year, is this absolutely luminous talent. We can see in retrospect that he did not make great use of CJ Stroud's talent. And now the Peach Bowl, Ohio State, Georgia was the exception. You got maximum Stroud in that game. The guy that we saw this season with the Houston Texans, we saw that in the Peach Bowl against Georgia. But we didn't see that guy regularly at Ohio State. We saw him against Michigan State and in a few other games when he was a flamethrower, but not on a relentlessly consistent basis. And then Ryan Day, wobbles at the end of this past season. He made the very savvy and astute hire of Jim Knowles as defensive coordinator. That paid off for him in a really big way in 2023. But overall, he did not reach the expected standard. And so, the way Ohio State's season concluded, and I know a lot of players opted out, but nevertheless, 3 points against Missouri in the Cotton Bowl. You're Ohio State. Your backup should be good enough to score 17, 20 points against Missouri. And that's not enough. No offense to Missouri. I'm just saying an Ohio State offense with, the depth of talent and quality You shouldn't be scoring 3 points really against anyone. I mean, maybe not. Okay, 1985 Chicago Bears. Okay, fine. You score only 3 points, but anybody else, you shouldn't be. And so it all brings me back to the main focus. Ryan Day was not exactly riding high, okay, with like the understatement of the decade, of the century. And yet, after that underwhelming performance and those underwhelming final notes against Michigan and then Missouri in the bowl game, Ohio State is just like a tsunami, just absolutely swamping the competition on the trail and in the portal. Julian Sayin being the latest example of that. It just underscores the point. Like, these recruits aren't saying to themselves, let's be real talk. These recruits are not saying, oh, I just have to play for Ryan Day. Oh my God, it's the opportunity of a lifetime. I just have to be able to seize this moment to play for Ryan Day. Come on now. We know what's going on. These guys are not beating down the door, scrambling to Columbus to play for Ryan Day. All right? It's the bag. And that bag in Columbus is in such marked contrast to the crickets that you see at USC with its NIL program. All right. And you know, the nuance here is that, you know, if Alex Grinch was still around, okay. Like I don't want to touch Alex Grinch with a 39.5-foot pole. These guys are losers. They're unserious about football, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But Lincoln Riley spent the past month proving he's serious. He gets it. He's learned his lesson. He's repented. Saul on the road to Damascus, the scales have been removed from his eyes. He's got religion. Okay, Lincoln Riley, elite defensive coaching staff, USC, let's roll. Let's bring in these studs. And it's not happening. And it's not happening to a severe extent with Oregon and Dan Lanning after, you know, losing to Kalen DeBoer twice. And again, you know, slipping on the banana peel in a really big game. Ryan Day losing to Harbaugh in Michigan, again, in a really big game. I mean, you know, with Lanning, I can at least get the idea of, wow, he cut some great videos. That Oregon social media team, they're very media savvy. They get the PR battle. But Ryan Day, I'm sorry, what is there? There's no there. And yet Ohio State is just absolutely dominating the recruiting and portal spheres. It underscores the extent to which USC is just getting sandblasted in the NIL game. And, you know, you just have to wonder what athletic director Jen Cohen is trying to do behind the scenes. I mean, she has to know this problem. Lincoln Riley has to know this problem. Riley and Cohen together have to have some sense of what needs to be done. But all USC fans are wondering, when is this rocket ship going to take off? When is USC, you know, with an elite coaching staff, you know, a staff that's been rebuilt, like the Alex Grinch, Dante Williams, they're in the past now. Like, this coaching staff should have maximum credibility. And yet in the NIL space, you're just not seeing the results to show for it. So that is certainly front and center in terms of the topic of the moment at USC.
Well, there is a lot. Speaking of a lot of a lot to talk about. Our old buddy Lane Kiffin had a little run. I'm sure it had nothing to do with Judkins, by the way, going to the Buckeyes. But you know what they're doing with Judkins, you know, and Will Rogers, and then Caleb Downs, and now a second guy from the Tide, Julian Sayin, right? I mean, they are realizing. I think Mark will probably opine on this, but I think he's feeling the pressure, and I think Ohio State's feeling the pressure because for a long time they've been the big dogs, but all of a sudden this thing's turning around a little bit on them. You know, you have the game going to the guys, the team up north, right? And now a national championship in their back pocket. I think nothing can wake up a fan base like your rival starting to turn the tide on you. And I think that there was a call to arms, and like a great program and like great fan base, They said, enough of this, fill in your expletive. We're going to do something about it. And they did it with their pocketbooks. And I'm telling you, they are really invested. You guys, the Buckeyes have a lot coming back this year, and then adding a Caleb Downs on the back end with their front seven, and then strengthening their secondary. I am really glad we are not playing the Buckeyes this year because they're pissed, they're loaded, and if they can figure out the quarterback and offensive line situation, they have to be your favorites for a national championship, in my opinion, this year. Just what they have going, unless Ryan Day messes it up. I'm kidding, Mark. I'm kidding.
What? I don't know why I got any kind of reputation as a Ryan Day defender or apologist. I'm pretty neutral on Ryan Day. I think I pretty much acknowledge his high points and his down points and his flaws and his issues, plus what he's done with the program, which is win-win-win, other than, some sore spots, of course. I will only take the point of let's start with the Lane Kiffin post, of which I believe it wasn't his original post. I think he reposted something that pointed out the supposed $13 million spent by Ohio State. But I'm kind of scratching my head because Lane Kiffin and his program did and maybe still do have the #1 transfer portal class. They're shelling out money.
Oh, yeah.
So all we have to do is run the calendar back 1 year, and Lane Kiffin was complaining about Jimbo Fisher and Texas A&M. So if there are individuals, coaches, programs that are spending more or out recruiting Lane Kiffin, then he seems to be annoyed and aggravated by this and has to whine about it, as opposed to the other 80 or 90% of the country that could point their finger at Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin and say, we don't have that kind of money. Do they whine and complain about that? I don't see it elsewhere, but Lane Kiffin seems to be the one that takes up this. Well, they spent $13 million. Well, what's the magic figure? I don't know what Ole Miss has spent. Let's say they've spent $8 million. Is $8 million too much? Is $13 million too much? Who is Lane Kiffin to point out, well, $13 million must be too much?
Mark, what you're doing is you're doing what he wants to do. He's just needling. I mean, he knows what he's doing. He knows the hypocrisy in what he's saying, and he knows he can get. He's the perfect person to get. He's the master of Twitter. Don't anyone ever goes up against that guy on Twitter, you're gonna rue the day. But I
don't know about that. I don't know how that's benefiting. If he wants to be the king of Twitter, if that's his ultimate goal.
Well, that's not his ultimate goal, Mark. I'm just saying,
at it, be the king of Twitter, but I don't know what he's accomplishing for his mission as the head coach at Ole Miss by stating stupid things and going after other coaches and doing what he did this week. I don't know what that accomplishes.
No. Humor.
I want to clear the air on something. Got some people in the chat saying that I'm an Ohio State hater. You know what? I'm making a very specific point. It would be just as true if this was happening to Harbaugh at Michigan. After all, Harbaugh was losing a lot of games to Ohio State a few years ago before he flipped things around. This would be to anybody in the same situation with the same dynamic unfolding. I'm making the point that after a coach has had three in Day's case, three relatively, less than fully inspiring, less than fully successful seasons, the logical instinct, just in a 2 + 2 = 4 kind of way, is to think that players are not beating down the door to play for that coach. It doesn't have to be Ryan Day or Ohio State. It could be anybody. Like it could be, okay, just to underscore the point. Let's take Brian Kelly and LSU. Did not hit the mark this past season. Like if LSU was somehow, scoring all these amazing, fantastic, spectacular, over-the-top wins and recruiting in the portal, I'd be saying the same thing. So it's not just Ohio State. It's just that it happens to be at Ohio State where a coach who has underwhelmed is nevertheless crushing the competition in the major battles, and that points to the NIL operation being robust. That's not hating. That's pointing out the dynamics of situations. When players look at certain coaches, certain teams, certain schools, and they see patterns of less than fantastic or amazing success, and yet they're predominantly flocking there, that tells me they're not going there for the coaching acumen and player development more than anything else. And like, players can choose what they want. They can choose the bag. They can choose the player development in the NFL route. They can choose, certain specific things about various programs. It's not a criticism if they want the bag, all right? Because like, I've long supported the idea that players should get paid, their market value should be fully realized. Hey, like that's a legitimate aspiration. That's a legitimate goal. So I'm not even knocking the player. I'm just pointing out what the dynamics are. When you see a coach who has not been hitting home runs on the field and he's hitting grand slams in the portal and on the recruiting trail, I'm just trying to connect the dots, folks. That's not being an Ohio State hater.
I'll connect the dots, though, in this way and push back to a certain extent. I'm not going to get into the bag dropping aspect of it. I will only say this. I believe that the players should be paid in another way. I don't agree with this because it's not what NIL was supposed to be. So as American citizens, they should have every right and freedom, just like anybody else, to earn money aside from their playing ability, but to be able to parlay that celebrity into, that's what that was supposed to be. And now it's become, come to our university, play for our team, and here's your fill in the blank, what the number is. The only thing about this whole windfall of talent coming to Columbus, whether that be through traditional recruiting or these transfer portal acquisitions, would be, this is not Ole Miss circa 2013-14, when we then found out Hugh Freeze and all of that business was going on because he's getting Laquan Treadwell, the number one wide receiver in the country, and Laramie Tunzel, the number one left tackle. And okay, Ole Miss is usually 25th, 30th in the country in recruiting, and all of a sudden they landed 5 number one players at their positions. Ohio State always is a top 3 or 4 recruiting giant. So that's not changed. And they were operating in the old system with that same success. Now, in terms of the transfer portal, who knows? They were very much taking a calculated approach this time last year and the year before during the offseason, just say, okay, there's a player that we could use. Let's go after him. And they weren't just taking this massive run at all these players. And then again, when it comes to your point is well taken, as most Ohio State fans expect championships, both conference and competing seriously for national championships, if not winning them. So your point's well taken, Matt, but I'm just, how many programs would look at the last 3 seasons, which are 11-1 seasons in the regular season, as failures or disappointments? Like, they're operating at a very small margin, and I can only think of 2. Even the team that just won the national championship, they don't operate at that level. They still don't, even with a national championship now won. Michigan fans would have to admit they don't operate at the same expectation level as Ohio State, because they haven't racked up 11-1 seasons for the last 15 years.
But it does. The fan base does. And I'll tell you, from a fan base in the latter years of the Pete Carroll, you would literally hear people say, another Rose Bowl. Oh, we're going to, if it was BCS or bust. Oh, yeah, all we did was won a Rose Bowl. We didn't win a national championship. When you get to that level, your own fan base starts going, we're tired of being the bridesmaid. Hey, especially when the guy next door just took the prettiest girl in the town and married her. You also want to, get on there and get what you could get as a fan base. So I think it is ratcheted up. I think that's why we're seeing this commitment twofold. You're right, Mark. I mean, it's not like you guys were not one of the top recruiters in the country for I don't know how long, but even more so, what we're seeing here in this offseason, you guys haven't had an offseason like this ever before, and I think there's a reason for it. It's because they've turned it up.
They're throwing money at it. Absolutely, yeah. I'm not denying that.
And by the way, I'm proud of you guys because you know what? We keep hearing that, well, you know, we're into retention. We're putting our money to keeping, and we're doing this roster management. We're keeping, well, guess what? So you don't think Ohio State's not throwing millions of dollars to keep their roster together? They're already there. Absolutely. Those guys could go to a lot of different schools. So they're doing both. They're bringing in new talent and they're also taking care of their guys. And again, I think it needed something. This might be the thing. This might be the catalyst. You know, Michigan might look back on this going, oh, shit. Well, we won that national championship, but man, we really pissed off the Buckeyes and they got rolling. So, I mean, it'll be interesting to see if they are able to turn all this offseason, which, again, you look at the guys you brought in. I mean, with the exception of bringing that, I don't know why I get about the Alabama center in. I've got no idea. But besides that, I'm just messing around. Besides that, it's just been an upgrade for a team that already was loaded and coming back with a lot of people. Again, the wild card is going to be, can the quarterback thing get figured out? And I think with those running backs, I want to see, you know, with Henderson and with Judkins and then Will Rogers running this just like, God knows if they can get creative with that. I don't think anyone's gonna be able to stop you guys. So I'm going to be interested to see that offense. And you guys have done everything what teams should be doing. I'm just saying the motivation. USC fans, you know, there is a thing called House of Victory. Get out there, even in the smallest contributions you can. They're taking small contributions. If you guys are talking about recruiting, why are we getting these guys? How about throwing a couple bucks towards the House of Victory and helping our NIL to get stronger? Because I'll tell you what, they're doing it at Michigan. They're doing it at Ohio State. They're doing it at Ole Miss. Why don't we do it here at USC?
All three of us can think of, especially in the professional level, of course, since this has only been a thing in college for a couple of years, where these super teams have been put together and they usually don't work. You know, the Philadelphia Eagles about 10 years ago went on a free agency run one-off season, and they were just supposed to be loaded. It didn't work. And other various teams, certainly the New York Yankees throughout the 1980s and early 90s, bought teams that didn't perform, but were the highest paid. So there is the intangible of, are these guys going to have the incentive and the motivation to play together? And then also the coaching is going to have to be top notch. So hopefully Matt can get back to us.
Yeah. Hey guys, right now we have 159 you guys on the line. We only have 46 likes. If you guys could do us a big favor and just hit that like button really quick, it's free. It costs you nothing. And if you've enjoyed the show so far, one of the best ways you can pay us back is helping to grow the show by hitting that like button. More people will get to see this video. And hopefully while you're at it, go ahead and hit that subscribe button for it. I will not bang the drum like I did last week. I promised my brother I wouldn't do that again, but go ahead and hit the subscribe button as well. We really would like to get to 5,000 and you guys can help us do that. Couple more super chats. Mark nice. Came in. Go over to those. So Danny Kennedy with another super chat. Also, again, still a member on another super chat. Appreciate you being here, Danny, and an additional super sticker. And then I don't know if you saw, I popped it up earlier. Will ND became, here we have guys, Trojans out there. We got an Irish guy, great supporter of all the channels, incredible wealth of knowledge. Make sure you check it out, Will ND's channel as well. If you want to get a little insight on our number one rival, the Irish, make sure you go check out Will ND's site. But now he's a member as well. So thank you, Will.
Tim, is that an argument, number one rival, UCLA, Notre Dame?
Not even close.
No?
Yeah. Well, okay. So here's the thing. If you ask alumni, especially a guy who lived through the 90s. So if you ask a guy who lived through the 90s, he's going to tell you, the 80s. And so let me rephrase it. If you lived through the 80s and the 90s when we lost or tied Notre Dame 13 straight years, right? You're going to say Notre Dame, like my generation. I've heard if you talk to the players, they will tell you it's UCLA. Why? Because they know all these dudes. They see them in town. They know each other. It's a little closer rivalry. And then if you're the younger generation, a little bit younger, who sat through those 8 years of UCLA, then maybe you might have that kind of a scenario. But man, the 90s were bad for our rivalry. But yeah, I mean, traditionally, I mean, no, we play UCLA to get to the Rose Bowl. We played games usually against Notre Dame to win the national championship. And that's where, for me, why they're our number one rivalry. I mean, how many Heisman trophies were decided that SC Notre Dame game? How many national championships on both sides were decided in that game, USC versus Notre Dame? It is absolutely, it's not even close, in my opinion. Yeah.
I mean, that's college football royalty. That is in the select category of those Cadillac elite rivalries. And USC UCLA, just as a comparison to what Tim was illustrating. I mean, the one USC UCLA game which stands out but way above all others was 1967 with OJ's cutback run. That was a matchup of two top 4 teams. The national title was very legitimately on the line. You don't have other USC UCLA games throughout history with remotely the same magnitude, historical resonance, with the same, we're still talking about it 50 years later kind of feel. That really underscores the point about the Grand Canyon sized gulf between USC UCLA and USC Notre Dame as a top of the line college football rivalry.
To me, they're just different. So I don't disagree with either one of you, because from the perspective that both of you have that's entrenched in USC, I can't argue that. I'm just a college football guy who has watched both games thinking this is as good as it gets in different ways. But growing up and being 8, 9, 10 years old and watching Ohio State and Michigan and then USC and UCLA directly after, that's just so ingrained in my memory.
You almost have it to where, I mean, you have Michigan, who's kind of a close example, not the same, close example. Where they had for years they were playing Notre Dame, and then every year playing Ohio State in conference. But the thing is with Michigan, they were years after Chrysler pissed them off that they didn't play for like decades, in that rivalry, and then that's been off and on. USC Notre Dame has been every single year except for 2 years in World War II and 1 year for the COVID year. Other than that, USC has played them that rivalry every single year. And like I said, just like how many national championships were won on that game and how many national championships were lost, by the way, right? Well, the other team played spoiler. They had no stake in it, but they spoiled it. And then on top of that, how many guys, I mean, you think about Caleb Williams, Carson Palmer, Reggie Bush, these guys, they shine out in that game, and it just sets some, because it's just a game everyone tuned into. I think a lot of the luster has come off of the UCLA game simply because UCLA nationally they kicked our butts 2 years ago, and then like really, really good. And then this year they dominated us. So you would think that I'd be saying UCLA, but it just seems that throughout the years in my lifetime, it's been Notre Dame.
Sure.
One reason the UCLA rivalry is second class right now is that UCLA would rather put tarps over seats at the Rose Bowl and prevent USC fans from attending the game than collect the revenue that UCLA desperately needs, because UCLA's has been running big budget deficits for several years running. But no, they would rather keep USC fans out of the stadium than make money. I mean, now that is a really sad commentary on the state of the USC UCLA rivalry, all from the Bruins side, of course.
It is, but don't you respect that in a small way, that they would
rather
than make the money?
Actually, no.
Rather than make the money, they want to keep USC out of the stadium.
So, I mean, like, it's a Los Angeles game, and you would deprive Angelinos, good, hard-working family people, from attending your game. What kind of statement does that make? Like, it's an awful statement every way around. Like, there are better ways to express rivalry than that. There are much better ways. Pivoting back to USC Notre Dame, folks, if you elect me president of the United States, not that I'm running, but if you do elect me president of the United States, I promise that I will put forth the funding for a John McKay era Parsegian ESPN 30 for 30 on Heisman night. 2 hours, not this 1 hour crap, 2 hours on really, in many ways, the most under-discussed, underappreciated great coaching rivalry in college football. And people might recoil at that and say, Matt, that's a hot take, that's recency bias, or that's, like a knee-jerk, lazy take. I'm going to defend that claim because, how much publicity did the 10-year war between Woody and Bo get? And how much publicity does that still get? And how much publicity does Steve Spurrier and Bobby Bowden get? Although ESPN has not done a 30 for 30 on those two either, which is also a national scandal and a disgrace. But how, McKay Parsegian, with all the battles that Tim was alluding to, with not just the titles that were up for grabs in those games, but also the spoilers on both sides during those years and the Heisman trophies that came from all that. It really is the most under-discussed classic coaching rivalry in college football. It doesn't receive a quarter of the attention and the publicity that other celebrated coaching rivalries have received down through the ages. We have to have a 30 for 30 on McKay and Ara.
The problem is, Matt, is that, again, you have to go back because either one or the other has been on top. You know what I mean? It hasn't been for a long time where USC and Notre Dame are both perennial top 10, top 15 teams, and then every 3 or 4 years we're going for a run for a national championship. It's been a long time since that. One will be up, the other will be down. So it's been like that. But I think a lot of the national interest in the game has come off. One, because ESPN's shoving SEC down everybody's throats. But the other part of that is just one or the other just hasn't lived up to the bargain. That was kind of just a mainstay in college football for decades, and that also is a little bit difficult for fans to check out. One dominate the other for a decade, and that's what it's been, like a decade domination, and it's going back and forth.
We do this every Monday night, folks. So if you don't make this a regular stop, you are welcome to do so starting tonight and keep it going next week right here at the Voice of College Football. And every day is time to check out USC football, basketball coverage with Matt and with Tim at Trojan's Wire. What are you guys working on this week?
Well, Tim's going to write a story on USC Sports Illustrated covers. Among other things, he's going to take a trip down memory lane, visit several different covers, and talk about the memories associated with those kinds of moments. So that's one thing that Tim will be looking at. We're covering the Arizona and Washington portal situations just because that's of interest to USC. And also, news out of Chicago today that Shane Waldron is going to be the offensive coordinator for the Bears. So what does that mean for Caleb Williams and also for Justin Fields? So going to have an item on that on Tuesday. So, a lot of different angles. We're obviously going to be covering the Chicago Bears a lot since, what they do with that pick is a subject of endless debate. And we obviously want Caleb Williams to have a good fit. And frankly, just speaking in terms of, what I want for Caleb Williams in terms of a good fit, I don't want him to go to Chicago because, having two different coaches in his first 2 years in the league, that is not a recipe for success. He needs to go to a non-Chicago location under an established coach, or even a coach that, might start fresh, like Ben Johnson, the Lions offensive coordinator, who has Detroit in the NFC Championship game. He might land at Washington. He might land at another one of these vacancies. And if Caleb Williams can start on the ground floor with Ben Johnson and they grow up together in the NFL, that's better than Caleb spending one season under Eberflus getting fired, and then Chicago's looking for another coach in year two with, Harbaugh, Vrabel, these coaches right now being off the market. Who's Chicago going to get next year? That just seems like a situation set up to fail for Caleb Williams. But anyway, we're going to be focusing on that at Trojan's Wire. And again, for Adam Lamparello and some of our other folks in the chat, USC baseball season, when it starts, Tim will be on it, but baseball season hasn't started yet. But Tim is our baseball correspondent, so don't you worry. Tim has the baseball beat locked down. He'll be on top of that. Don't worry. Don't worry.
Guys, I apologize if I lose sight of this. This Friday deal, is that whenever stuff's going on, or are you guys back at it on Friday?
Every Friday.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That is the call-in show every Friday.
Excellent.
Absolutely.
And Tim's going to do it solo in the middle of March while I cover USC's women's basketball team in March Madness.
I'm gonna bring a ringer in. I'll have to bring I gotta bring someone in because that'll be my 3rd and 4th hour. And after 2 hours of the Big Ten show, I don't know if I want to go solo for 2 hours. So
I will carry the load on the Big Ten show.
All right. You always do, so that's fine. There you go.
So Friday nights, folks, over on the main channel, 7 p.m. Eastern time, 4 Pacific, Tim and I taking Big Ten calls. We have media guests stopping by as well, talking Big Ten football for a couple hours. And then Tim and Matt get together immediately following 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 Pacific, right here for the call-in show. So that's a Friday doubleheader of Big Ten football with a Big Ten live show, followed by USC.
And we've been doing a lot of talking about what's been happening at Ole Miss, what Ohio State's doing, what Oregon's been doing for a number of years. You guys want to get a part of this thing, make sure you go over. Here it is right here. houseofvictory.com. Get your butts over there and see what you could do to become a part of the solution and don't just be a complainer, right? And then while we're at it, it's I haven't updated this. It should be 4,841 days. Says, well, I'll let our guest speaker say it.
Give Reggie his Heisman back.
So we need to get Reggie back his trophy. It's been too damn long. NCAA, it's enough of this. Just give him his damn trophy.
Did Coach O really say that, or is that AI generated?
No, that's Coach O. Oh, by the way, what was the AI generation that I wanted to do? Oh, I think we need a bigger. We're gonna have from Jaws. I think we need a bigger boat. I want to get like a Roy Scheider doing like a AI. So I think we're gonna need a bigger NIL. I mean, that would have been perfect to start the show, but I couldn't find the generator for that. So no, that's Coach O. That was him when he, I don't know, I clipped it off of something. What was the endorsement he was doing recently? It was like he was up there talking about some endorsement opportunity, but then he threw that Reggie thing out.
All right, folks, we will see you back here on Friday again. The Big Ten SC doubleheader, 7 p.m. Eastern over on the main channel, followed by the USC call-in show with Tim and with Matt here. In the meantime, Trojans Wire, folks, and we'll see you back here very soon. Have a great night.